Hey guys, how's it going? Well, another snowy day here in Vancouver, British Columbia. And since we're on the topic of winter, I figured I'd talk about the pros and cons of having a wood stove as a heat source in your van. So, as I'm talking about this, I will be showing you a clip of New York City, Times Square area, because let's face it, nobody wants to look at me for 10 minutes. uh, you know, maybe some people do, but I think it's a bit more entertaining for you guys to actually look at something rather than just some dude looking at a camera. Pros and cons of having a wood stove in your van. Well, let's see. Let's talk about the pros first. Um, a wood stove generates dry heat, and in a van, especially if you live somewhere like the Northwest, Pacific Northwest, with a lot of moisture in the air, humidity rate in my area is often above 85% in Vancouver. So having a wood stove is gonna dry off the insides of a moist van, and you'll really never have to worry about mold or anything like that because the moisture will be gone because of the wood stove. So that's a major plus. Another major plus is that if you have a wood stove, kind of like, the Kimberly wood stove that Justin Incredible had in his old RV, it's very nice to look at with the flames, and it's very relaxing. So that's definitely a plus. Another plus of having a wood stove is you never have to go get propane. You can see how much wood you have left for fuel in your pile of wood. And like, oh, I only have a few bits of wood left, it's time to go get some more. Whereas with propane, you're basically going to run out and then you're going to go, darn it, I'm out. Now, there are ways to measure how much propane is left in the tank. One way you can do it is by having a scale underneath the 20-pound propane tank, and what you can do is you can weigh it when it's empty, and then kind of write that number down somewhere. And when you're getting close to that number, obviously when it's full it's going to be way heavier, but when you get close to the number of what it weighs when it's empty, you know that you're going to run out of propane soon. So you can go fill it up when you think it's appropriate time to do so. So that's one way of combating that issue. I'm going to bounce back and forth a bit here. I'm going to talk about some cons of the wood stove. You're going to have smoke coming out of the roof of your van, and unless it's a high top van, which I think it's probably going to have to be a high top van in order to have enough clearance, because I think you need at least 2.5 feet or so between the top of the stove and the roof, so that nothing catches on fire, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, you need to have. That probably means you're going to have a high top van. But if you have a smoke stack coming out of your roof of your van, someone might say, "Hey, it's a dude in there. He's got smoke coming out of his van," and call the cops. Chances of that happening, not that likely, to be honest, but it's possible. Now, in the winter, it's dark early. So if it's dark, there's less likely somebody's going to see it. Like in Vancouver, it gets dark in the height of winter at like 4:30 in the afternoon. So, you're mostly, or at least I'm mostly in the van in the evening if I'm going to be in the van at all, because I'm at work during the day. So it's less of an issue to have smoke at the roof of your van, because it's dark and people are not as likely to see it. Another con of the wood stove, is kind of like I kind of touched on a little bit, is the clearance issue. You're gonna have to make sure that there's nothing near that stove that is combustible, and that means in a van that's small, like they mostly are, that's gonna use up valuable space. Another con of the wood stove, it's gonna run out of wood in a time when you might want to have the heat continue. For example, with my propane heater, my Wave 3, I can run it all night and wake up and it's still warm in the van. I mean, it's probably like, I don't know, I don't have a thermometer in here, but I'm guessing it's like 19 or 20 Celsius, when I wake up, because I have had the heater on all night. And yes, you have lots of ventilation to make sure that you don't die from lack of oxygen. But with a wood stove, how much burn time are you going to get? Probably no more than 3 hours for your typical wood stove before you're going to have to restoke your fire. Now, if you have a really good stove, like wood stove, like Justin Incredible's Kimberly stove that he had, according to him, you can burn that thing for all night long, and when he wakes up, there's still heat coming out of it. So that's a major plus of that particular stove. However, that particular stove is also around, I think it's around close to $5,000 Canadian. Excuse me. So that's a significant chunk of change, and it just really doesn't make sense financially to use that item, which is so high priced. Unless you got money to spare and you want to go for it, then that's fine. But most of us are not financially well off to afford a $5,000 stove. Another kind of drawback of the wood stove is it needs to be cleaned. You need to remove the ash on a regular basis, and you're going to need to clean out the pipe itself. I'm not exactly sure how often that pipe would have to be cleaned, like the smokestack, but I do know that that is something that has to happen on a regular basis. With a propane heater, you never have to clean it. The most I have to do is wait till it's cooled down, which usually within a minute to 30 seconds, so that I can put my cover on it to stop dust from hitting the part of the stove that heats up. So I thought of another advantage of having a wood stove is that you can use it to cook on. You could easily put a cup of coffee on the top of it, or you could warm up a can of soup. You can do lots of different things. So that's definitely a plus. Now, I have seen people use like buddy heaters, Mr. Buddy heaters, and use kind of like I want to call it a barbecue grate that they fashioned over the top, and you can heat up things with that as well. Now, is that really recommended? What if it spills into your heater? That's bad. It's not exactly manufactured approved, so it could cause potential fire issues or damage your heater, something like that. So, but I have seen it done on Van Dweller's Facebook. There's a guy who posts regularly of him heating up food using his Mr. Buddy heater. Kind of another disadvantage of a propane heater is the fact that if you're getting on in years, those propane tanks, they get pretty heavy. Probably, I don't know, 30, 35 pounds or something. But, you can always get the guy to lift it into your van or whatever. And that way it will save you a lot of difficulties moving it. Another con of the wood stove is that, say you get up in the morning and you got to go to work, and it's cold out. If all you have is a wood stove as your source of heat, it's gonna take a while to get that stove going. Like, you gotta put your newspaper in and light the kindling and put your bigger pieces on and all that jazz. It's gonna take a while. I don't know how long, maybe 10 minutes. How long will it be before you feel any appreciable heat? I'm not sure, but I know that with my Wave 3, within 3 to 4 minutes, I'm getting lots of heat, and I basically just have to hold the piezo starter, igniter starter thing for like 5 seconds, and then keep the knob, thing pressed in for another 20 seconds, and I'm good to go. So less than 40 seconds, and I've got heat. It's definitely going to take longer than that to get heat out of a wood stove. Another concern with the wood stove is, where are you going to put your wood? And it's going to use up a fair amount of space if you want to go for any length of time without having to get more wood. My propane tank will last me 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how cold it is outside. And then I can go get a refill. And it does use space, but mostly it's vertical space. It's like 18 inches tall by a foot in circumference for the tank itself. So that means that it's really unlikely you would be able to get 3 weeks of burn time in wood that would fill the area occupied by a propane tank, if that makes sense. So you would need a lot of wood to burn for 3 weeks, and it would use a lot more space than what a propane tank takes. And as we know, living in a van, space is always at a premium. Now, if you're somewhere where you're in a forest or in rural areas where there's access to wood all over the place, well, maybe that's not so much of an issue. Maybe you're taking your dog for a walk or whatever, and you pick up a few big chunks of wood. Now, there's also the issue of cutting the wood. If you're going to buy it pre-packaged, that's going to be more expensive. But if you want to just go and get wood out of the forest, you're going to have some kind of small chainsaw or something, or hatchet, to get that wood into sizes that you can actually fit it into the stove. Anyways, guys, there you have it. There's a number of reasons that I think, for me personally, I'm not going to go the wood stove route. Of course, I'm in a transit connect, so there's no way I would do it anyway because of clearance issues, and it'd be absolutely ridiculous to try to stuff one of those in here. But I think for a number of those reasons, I think the cons outweigh the pros with the wood stove. All right, guys. Well, that about wraps it up. Thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good night.